Oops, that'll come back in a moment. Sorry. Okay, everybody. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Todd Corabi. I am beginning my 24th year of teaching here in the School District of Philadelphia, and I'm currently teaching at the Arts Academy at Benjamin Rush. I teach primarily 11th grade health and physical education, and I will point out that without sounding like I'm bragging, it is a special admittance school. So a lot of the things, everything that you see here today are things that I did before the pandemic started, and the students respond very quickly. So you have to, as always, decide what you want to and what you don't want to use in terms of your particular students. And absolutely, please talk to your principals ahead of time. I'm telling you that before we go anyplace else, because, and I said just like in the other video, the other sessions today, I don't want to use the word disconnect, but there is a difference between what the school district is putting out on their instructional design for the online learning and what principals' expectations are. And that largely depends on what the school is. For the high schools, the schools that are in the autonomy networks, the principals have a lot of leeway and freedom. For my particular school, a lot of you probably saw the document about 45 minutes of health education per week, no more than 20 minutes or so of activity that normally would be considered homework. I'm seeing my students like it's a normal day. I'm going to have my students for 54 minutes for second, fourth, fifth, and sixth. The principal has reiterated what her expectation is in terms of synchronous versus asynchronous. And the one thing that she's stressing all of the time, which I'm sure your principals have mentioned to you or will, is that the district does not want the students staring at a screen the entire time. So some of the activities we're going to quickly model today would normally be activities that you're doing in 1, 2, or 3 minutes. They would be doing for 5 or so minutes without looking at the screen. They would be using their own notebook. So you'll see phrases that say in your own notebooks or in your paper. They're looking away from the screen. I'm also going to talk a little bit as we go forward on whether the activity can be synchronous or asynchronous. And just to clear up things, if you want me to rephrase, we all know that synchronous is live instruction, and asynchronous is when the students don't have direct access to you at that moment right away. So we could use it in old-fashioned terms from before last March. Asynchronous would basically be homework. They're doing it on their own. And synchronous would be in-class activities. That said, the synchronous activities can be live direct instruction, or they can be independent work that the students are doing either by themselves or in small groups. Just in case you haven't seen this yet or haven't heard about this yet, Nancy is asking us to record sessions today. This session is being recorded. I'm displaying my screen right now, so what should pop up on the recording is just the display. Star Davenport is listed as our primary host, so she'll also be monitoring the chat. She just posted a link to the attendance form, so you can fill that out if you didn't fill it out already. And we're going to just dive right in there. But before I do so, this particular activity that I asked you to do, subscribing to the Google Classroom, is a model of an instant activity. So if your class starts at 12:30, at 12:28, at 12:29, you would put this up on your own screen. You would share your screen. And the students, as they log on, this is what they're already seeing. Some of you, if you logged on later, you weren't able to see it. You kept seeing just people's pictures. And if as a host, I stop screen sharing and I screen share again, it automatically opens back up for all of you to see in a large window. So using an instant activity, similar to writing it on the board, the students walking into your classroom, they look at your classroom board, they know exactly what to do. You use the instant activity here. In this case, I'm asking you, go to Google Classroom and add this class for you. Really good idea to use the instant activities to facilitate the school district's vision of the community meetings. Not only do they want community meetings to happen at a specific time period during the day, like for high schools, it's definitely homeroom or advisory, whatever you want to call it, but they want every class to start with a brief 5-minute community meeting that includes a greeting and then something for them to talk about. So that can be a current event related to your topic. That can be a preview of the topic for that class. It can be a review of the class from yesterday. You're going to see 2 or 3 different examples today, and I will talk to you about ways that you can adapt those. 2 or 3 different examples today that will facilitate discussion about what you're going to be talking about in class. Before we go any further, though, when you subscribed to the Google Classroom, you should have gotten this page, Drive the Health Classroom, 8/26/2020. I asked you to open it up in a new tab so that you can follow along with me at your own pace if you want to. Francis from last session, he posted my email in case people want it later. Feel free to email me at the end of the session or tomorrow or next week or next month if you have any questions. And I'm going to share with you a bunch of tools and ideas, okay? If you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the Google Classroom, there is a link to my class website. My class website has a ton of resources on it. It's the main page. There's navigation windows at the top, okay? And you can get any of the resources I'm going to be sharing with you today from this website. I will tell you as we're working on them where they're at so that you can be able to get them for yourself. Hopefully all of your questions will be answered before you leave, but if you have any that you have afterwards, other than emailing me, you can go back to here and be able to look at it. Star asked me last period, she goes, is there a way that, that we can really demonstrate to everyone how to use Google Classroom if they don't already know? Because a lot of teachers have been using Google Classroom for a few years, but a lot of the rest of you were forced into doing it last spring for the first time. And anything that's new can have a little stress. So right now, I'm going to tell you all, just take a deep breath. You're going to get a lot of information thrown at you today, but it's going to be okay. Really, when you listen to what I'm telling you to do, and then you do it one time, you're going to realize, oh, that was actually pretty simple. And I'm going to try to keep things simple for you. That's why it's called Drive the Classroom. I'm going to show you easy ways to integrate Google Drive and tools that are on Google Drive with your Google Classroom to drive instruction. Even though I showed you that I have a whole website, you don't need a whole website to be able to do this. You can post things directly into Google Classroom. So let's do one right now. I'm going to go and post into Google Classroom for you, and I'm going to post, here is a video on how to make posts, okay? Now, I'm going to post this video and I'm going to add a file from my own computer. And it's going to say upload, and I'm going to browse, and I'm going to go to my desktop, which you're looking at all kinds of stuff right now. And I'm going to post how to add a post to Google Classroom. It will upload the file. You can do this with anything you want from your computer. Documents, images, whatever you want. And then it shows up as a post. You can also do the same thing by adding, it's not on YouTube yet, but you can also do the same thing by adding a YouTube link or a file or a link to another web page or a file from your Google Drive. I don't encourage you to do that yet because it's too easy to add a file that the students can edit the master version of, but you'll learn about that in a little bit. Once I post it, you won't be able to watch the video right away because it has to format itself, but you'll be able to watch that video. Later on, this post is going to be edited so that it is actually a YouTube video for you to go to. For now, I just wanted to show you how to use it. The video will show you how to add anything you want to, and I added my syllabus and a link to my webpage, so you'll be able to see how to do that, okay? So, without further ado, let's go and do another instant activity for when you first walk into, thank you, Yolana, for saying that. Yes, you do have to refresh to see what I did. So we're going to go on. We're going to do this in real life for about 2 minutes in your, for the professional development real life right now. For you, you would be giving the students 5 minutes as they're coming in, as they're logging in, and you're seeing this on your screen. You've shared your screen. The students pop in. This is what they see. Define in your own words and in your own notebook, not in chat and not out loud yet, these two terms, healthy or health and wellness. Now, as you're thinking about this answer for real, for a professional development, why does it say in your own words and in your own notebook? Because frankly, this takes the students' eyes off the screen. They can be on and they can be looking at their notebook and they can be thinking. They don't have to be staring at a screen the whole time. It's still synchronous because it's live while you're in session with them, but it can also be asynchronous. You totally can post this question on Google Classroom ahead of time. If you only see them once a week and you only see them, for example, on Wednesdays, you can post this on Monday and they can see it on Monday and Tuesday, and they can get an instant notification about seeing the post, and they can be able to answer this question. Works better, asynchronous activities like this works better with grades 4 and up, but the kindergarten, first and second and third graders, they absolutely can do it. They just have to be trained on how to do it. And if every teacher in your school is using Google Classroom, it's not going to take them long to catch on. So hopefully in real life, you have been thinking about these answers. We're all professionals, so you probably have an idea in your head. So we move on to the next slide. And now I tell my students, can you add into the chat your definition of health or healthy for me? So in real life, please do that. Add your definition for health or healthy. Open up your chat window so you can see other people's answers too. So I have one definition: health is actively doing healthy things. Do we have anybody else? Just healthy for now. Health or healthy? Just a definition for health or healthy. So what we're modeling for everybody is using the chat to be able to post the student's answer. While this is happening, if you wanted to, you could mark off who's giving the answers as a way to give them credit for their do now, so to speak, or their as you enter, or their pre-class. Or you can not. You can make it so that you gave them a form to use. Okay, we're going to stop there. So we have health is taking care of your body, mind, and spirit, state of health, taking care of yourself. So here's a definition that we want for class students. We're going to call it being free from disease. It's generally just speaking about physical things. When you go to the doctor and you say, the doctor says, how are you feeling? You say, I'm feeling okay. So are you healthy? Yeah, I think I'm healthy. And then if it's a wellness check, you go and you get your temperature taken and your blood pressure, and they listen to your heart and they listen to your breathing rate and they take a bunch of questions, and then okay, it's a good wellness check. Or if you're not feeling well and you go to the doctor and you're like, yeah, I have a really bad headache and my nose is stuffy and I just feel really down. Okay, I guess you're not sick. I guess you're not healthy. I guess you're sick. Sorry. It's generally just speaking of physical things. Wellness, on the other hand, is more than that. And some of the students already gave a definition that's more so about wellness. So out loud, who would like to unmute and give a definition for wellness? Notice the strategic pause as everybody's waiting for someone else to answer. At first, you're going to get that. And that's okay, because you're only going to have one person answering at a time. So somebody answer before I call on you.
It's the overall state of well-being that involves regular behaviors that has a positive result over time.
Thank you, Steve. I don't know if that's in your own words, but thank you so much for reading that definition. And then you can joke around with the students like that. And then you can, all right, does anybody else have a definition that's in their own words? And then they can go on and they can answer it. And you notice only Steve answered. So you can do this easily. If you have a lot of students answering at the same time, or a few weeks down the line, a few months down the line, they're more comfortable with you, they're more comfortable with the class, and they're all trying to answer at the same time, you just tell them to raise their hand. You just tell them to use the reactions that are on the bottom of your screen to raise their hand or put a thumbs up, and you can call on them literally. You could also just randomly call on them and not let them raise their hand. Make sure that they're still paying attention. My principal is very adamant that they're not making the students stay on camera, because a lot of the students at my school have a lot of anxiety about not only the way they look, but also what the environment is that they're Zooming from or Google Meeting from, the room that they're in. Like, it's a little sloppy behind me with books and stuff, but a lot of other students live in a home that they don't want people to see. And we're just going to leave it at that. So she's allowing them to keep their cameras off, but you need to make sure they're there. So you randomly call on them. Like, for instance, I'm not picking on you, Jeff, but I see Jeff's cameras off. So I say, hey, Jeff, can you give me what your definition of for wellness? And you don't really have to answer, but Jeff says, oh, what? Now I know he wasn't paying attention. I'm like, come on, Jeff, bring it back. Or Jeff gives me an answer. I'm like, oh, thank you for focusing. I really like that definition. And then you can go and it can drive your discussion. Now, all the students are quiet. You can have them all muted, or you can remind them to keep themselves muted. You can mute everyone from your end if you're the host, if you need to. And then you can go through, I'm breezing through it, but obviously you would go slower. And you can go and tell them and discuss with them what the answers are, suggesting that they take notes in their own notebook. And then you can talk about the term wellness wheel and how if you Google wellness wheel, you'll have a lot of different images, but this is the one we're going to focus on in class. The next slide, I embedded a YouTube video. You just take the link from the YouTube video and you pop it into your Google Slides. Again, for those of you that never done it, Google Slides is like the PowerPoint version Google made for Google Drive. And you embed the video and you change its settings right in PowerPoint. I changed mine to play automatically. And at this point, I can be explaining how the 5 areas fit together like a puzzle and that they all need to work together for wellness to be able to be achieved. Then I go on to the next slide. I have an additional video where you can talk about how not a single one is more important than the others, even though they all affect physical health. They all also affect each other. And you can show this little manipulative to them before anyone asks, can I get that slideshow or can I get that video? Yes, I'm going to show you where it's at in a few minutes. And then you can also talk about other areas. So maybe I'm focusing on the word Pisces, P-I-S-E-S, from my classes, but I can also make them know that if you look up wellness wheel on Google, then you'll see other pictures that have educational, environmental, occupational, financial, and you can see other things like that. Okay? So easy way to drive the discussion for your classroom using the share screen feature in the beginning that also goes with direct instruction. You can then continue on with more detailed explanations, a further PowerPoint, or you can stop and have them do something independently on paper on their own, which is then an asynchronous activity because you're offline with them now at that point. You can have them do it while you're online with them, which technically makes it synchronous, but now it's independent for them. So they're working and they're not looking at your screen unless they have a specific question to ask you at that moment. Moving on, this slide asks you to go back to your Google Classroom and find the post about stressors. If you're looking at my screen, you scroll down and you're going to see a topic about stressors posted somewhere around on August 24th. Click on that link. That's going to take you to a Google form. For those of you that are just following along and just looking at my display and not interacting, that's okay. This is what it should look like to you. Stressors are things that cause stress and then ask you some questions. For class period, just put whatever you want. I don't care. But that's just so I know what class did it. Okay? Use this form to list your stressors. Nobody will see your name. Check all that apply. And then it goes on to what's your biggest stressor selected above. I'm willing to bet that most of you are going to put too much to do. Now, look at my screen because you don't have access to this right now. When you go and create a Google form, which is also in Google Drive, the Google Forms allow you to see your responses. This little button up here, which I'm not pushing today, allows you to create a spreadsheet that shows you the student's name, when, and in this case, what period they entered your information in. So you can track who did it and who didn't do it. I didn't put a student's name in this one because I purposely didn't want to know what student answered so that they'd be more truthful. So when you're creating your Google form, you would put that an email is required and it will track their email. You would tell them to put their first and last name, and then it shows up. When you're creating a Google form and editing it, there are features. If you're looking at mine right now, there are features in order to make it a quiz. And then as you're making it a quiz, you give it an answer key. It is really easy and fun to use, and I highly encourage you all to do it if you have an opportunity to do it, because it will have you track things so quickly. Doesn't work so well with open-ended questions and constructed responses. They can answer them, but if you download extensions to be able to grade those, it doesn't grade them right all of the time. So you would still have to grade those by hand, but if you're giving them a quick 5-question warm-up or a pre-test or a post-test, and you want it to do it multiple choice, matching, or some sort of memory recall like that with specific answers, goes fast. And your grading gets automatically done by Google based on what you say in the parameters. Now, for our activity now, again, bring your mind back to the beginning of class. We post this beginning of class thing. We go down, and now you see everybody's answers. Oh, look, here, use this form to list your stressors. So this is the stressors that everybody put. And the greatest stressor was COVID-19 restrictions and cancellations. And it's really close behind by too much to do, which is what I guessed it was going to be. So you can talk about the class's biggest stressors. You can have them post into the chat, or you can have them raise their hand, or you can have them just talk one at a time. And then you can, just like in regular class, you can drive a discussion about why the class as a whole thought that those were the biggest stressors, right? Then you can go down and see what the people said the biggest stressor for them individually was. Hover over top of the biggest thing, too much to do, is the one that had the most answers, followed by part-time job and COVID-19 restrictions. And again, it goes and drives the discussion. So without showing you how to make a Google form, because you could totally go on YouTube and say how to make a Google form, and they could go and show you the basics of how to do this. I just showed you two different ways, one using a Google Classroom post and one using a slide that's on share screen to be able to demonstrate how to do instant activities. One of the best components that you're going to need to use and understand when you are creating things in Google Drive are these four terms: the preview versus view, versus view versus edit versus copy features. Preview looks like this. Notice the screen. Oh, I'm sorry. If you want to follow along in your own browser, this posting is a little bit further down on my Google Classroom Drive, the Health Classroom, and you'll see preview versus view versus edit versus copy, and there'll be 4 links. There's also a YouTube video about that, okay? So preview, if you look at my screen again, it just shows you the document. You can't do anything with it except for highlight it and copy and paste someplace else. It's good to do. It's whatever Jeff just said, as we are when we get into Todd's classroom, just go. I will post the link again, just so that you all know the subscription code. So sorry everyone for the interruption. And if you didn't subscribe to the classroom, it's now in the chat. So anyway, back where I was. The preview feature is not able to be used for anything. You just copy and paste. You would use that if you just wanted to show somebody a file, like for instance, a PDF file, okay? This is the view page. Now, when you go up to the top, look at my URL or look at the links that I posted on Google Classroom. The only difference in the entire link is the last word. The only difference in the entire link is the last word. That last word tells Google what to do with it. Preview versus view versus edit versus copy. So with view, the students can view what you put as if they can write it, but they can't do anything to it. They can't change it. But they can go onto file and add it to their drive and make a copy of it. They can do that if they so choose to. But why don't you save them a step? Why don't you make it so that they have to copy the files that you want to give them? You want to give them an assignment. You want to give them a handout. You post the link with the word copy at the end, and it creates this page for them. Let me demonstrate that to you using my actual class website. The PowerPoint that I just showed you, if you go to my health section and you go to, I should make that a link, but I will later. If you go to the wellness unit, you have individual pages on the wellness unit. You can find them up here, or you can click, you can go down further and click here. So the PowerPoints that I was showing you are on the page that's called Pisces. That didn't work. Are on the page that's called Pisces. And as you scroll down, here's the PowerPoint that had the Pisces definition on it. Here's some other sources. And here's the PowerPoint I'm going to show you in a few minutes. And that will allow you to see everything that you have access to it. Now, you want to take one of my assignments that I gave to everybody. On my assignments for this unit, just click on any one you want, and it's going to open up for you in copy view. So you can take any resources that I posted on this classroom and be able to use it for yourself. The wording of my units is definitely specific to my school, as opposed to the school district's scope and sequence in the year at a glance, but you can figure out which ones are which. I did not complete the web pages for nutrition, disease prevention, or personal safety yet. All the rest of them are finished with the exception of a few tweaks. So you have a ton of YouTube videos, assignments, handouts, links to other sites for information on all of these pages. And if you didn't copy down the link to it, it'll be shown at the end, and it's also posted on our Drive the Classroom. So that was preview, that was view, that was copy. Well, there's an edit feature too. Obviously, you would use the edit feature if you wanted to share this document with somebody else to be able to use at the same time, another colleague. But when would you use this with your students? So on the Drive the Classroom page, if you scroll to this section, it says, when it's time, use this link for Pisces assignment. Click on the thing that says Pisces. And what's going to open up is a spreadsheet on Google Sheets, which, by the way, in case you didn't just notice, you just saw Google Forms, Google Slides, Google Docs, and now Google Sheets, all in a matter of 2 minutes to be able and how to be able to use them for instruction and post each of these things on Google Classroom. A lot of information at once, but again, you can go back to it anytime you want on the Drive the Classroom, Google Classroom, which I will keep up for the whole year. Okay? So at this time, I'm asking for you don't all have to do it, but a few people, please, type your last name and put an answer to this question. How do you make or how do you keep these areas healthy? So specifically, this would address the standard towards the end of demonstrate ways to enhance, maintain, or enhance personal health. So as people are typing, you can hover over and see who's doing it. So Jeffrey is typing an answer on physical. Thank you, Jeffrey. He puts exercise, and you see some other answers. And we're not going to go through this and take up all the time, but you created a Google Sheet, you made it an edit link. So now all of the students can be interacting at the same exact time onto this tool. On the Google Classroom page that I shared with you, there's also a link to something called Padlet, which we're not going to work on today to save time, but you can easily find a video on how to use Padlet. And when you go to Padlet for the very first time, if you've never used it, it walks you through step by step how to create a Padlet. And think of it as a way, like imagine this in a regular classroom. You give the students a Post-it note, you tell them to go up through the board and you put the Post-it note someplace. That's basically what a Padlet is. The students are posting a personal assignment, a personal answer, and everyone else can see it in real time and you can react to it in real time. Same thing as this, but cooler, because they can post pictures, they can post videos, they can post links, they can comment on each other's, not just post their own. And I use it every year for a body image assignment, and the kids go crazy with it, going back and forth. Sometimes they get off task, but that's okay because they're still getting the main point and they go on. I typically give it to them during class. They'll come in, their pre-class will be like, go to Padlet, sign in with your school district email, and complete the task. And then the task will be posted for them on there, and then they just do it. And I can't get them to stop. So something you definitely could do, it would be a synchronous activity. You want them interacting together. You could tell them, now for homework, asynchronously, go back to Padlet and view 5 different posts and comment on them. So you could do something like that to make it an asynchronous activity. Okay? What time is it? I have time. Okay. I also would like to show you how to do asynchronous activities on Google Classroom. And there's 2 main ways that I do them. For you, for your purposes, they are posted on Google Classroom towards the bottom. And I have assignments, and you see it's a Word document or a Google Doc. And then you see it looks like something that looks like a website, right? It's a link to my website for where you get this assignment. So you don't have to do that right now unless you choose to. But looking at my screen, this is the directions. This is an assignment I actually gave to them last year. Last year in May, the week of May the 4th, I was told then to give them no more than 60 minutes of work per week. School district had said 45. Principal said no longer than 60 because we typically have 54-minute long periods. So she said no longer than 60 minutes per week, no more than 30 minutes of additional independent work during the course of the week. So I gave them work which would take them between 30 and 60 minutes, depending on how fast they did it. At the top of the directions, I labeled and highlighted for you to see. They didn't see the highlighting. I probably should have done that, come to think of it. Assignments required to turn in via Google Classroom submission. And I gave them a link to constructed response prompts. And this particular link is view only as opposed to copy. And as you go down, you see that independent learning to do this week, which would be the same as asynchronous work to do this week. So asynchronously, they were asked to watch a 15-minute video. They were asked to review a slideshow. And here's the 2 links to where those things are at. And then I also gave them suggested enrichment, because I'm privileged to be able to teach the kind of student that they'll do more. If I tell them it's extra credit or I tell them that it's enrichment, most of them will keep doing it. Sometimes I have to tell them, you don't need to keep doing this. I'm not grading it. You have too much extra credit, So, and then there's other students that I teach that they're like, tell me what I need to do just to get a B, or tell me what I need to do just to pass this class. And then, they won't do the extra credit and the enrichment, but I gave that option to them. And then I post the objectives down because our principal is in all of our Google Classrooms. And just like when you post them on your board, she wants to see that the objectives are also posted as well. So this is posting directions in Google Classroom. And as you can see, if you're looking at mine, it's just posted as a link. Just tells them what to do, posts it as a link. Okay.
Todd, there's a question in the chat. It's asking, can you switch from edit to view mode?
Yep. All you have to do is change the word. So you go to view. All you do is go to view and change that word to edit, and it changes. School district just signed me out. Okay. Really easy to do. The other way that you can give asynchronous work is when you do some things that are typically called hyperdocs. This is not a true hyperdoc by definition. So if one of the tech people downtown were trying to teach us how to do hyperdocs, this would not be that. But this is almost a typical hyperdoc. If you want to learn how to make them, you can go to YouTube and say, how do I make a hyperdoc? And basically, I'll just tell you how to insert graphics and insert text and insert tasks onto a Google Doc, okay? And when you go down, you'll notice, and I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but when you notice, it says, watch this video from 2 professional internet safety speakers. You click on the video, it tells you to watch something. It happens to be a video from Phineas and Ferb. They laugh when they see it, especially since they're in high school. And then it tells you record 3 facts in the video. They're good facts that they give. So they go and they list the 3 facts. What you're looking at preview mode, but when you go to the website to do it, which if you're looking at my screen, I'll show you right now. Where am I? When you click on the link to do it, it takes you to the website, and then you click on the link and it makes a copy. It gives the students an individual copy. Now, if the students change that word from copy to edit, now they can edit your original file. Most of them won't bother doing that. And you can get your files back if they mess it up on you, if you think they're doing it on purpose or maliciously. But that's that. You can do that. So 2 different ways that are easy to do asynchronous activities. Just give them a list of directions, depending on their age. Obviously, younger kids need less directions and they're not going to be able to read it in some cases. Or give them an actual worksheet to do on their own time asynchronously. Now, I can post this as an assignment, today's health class, and I can say, all right, today you're going to be working mostly asynchronously, but I'm going to stay on in case you need me. Take roll, tell them what to do. Depending on what your principal's policies are, you can let them log back off and do their work, or you can keep them logged in and say, stay logged in to the end of the period, but you can turn your videos off and I don't need to hear from you unless you have a specific question. Now they're working independently the whole rest of the time period. Okay. So independent work that's synchronous or independent work that's asynchronous, and it's all there for them. 114. At this time, I'm going to sort of demonstrate one more feature for you. And in order to do that, we are going to do another pretend health class activity in breakout rooms. Now, the primary host, which today is Star Davenport, she has a button on her screen that is going to enable her to break you into smaller groups. There's 41 people at this session right now. I don't know. She'll decide how many rooms she wants. And then once she does that, it evenly distributes you into the rooms. When you're in the rooms, I want you to think about this question. And of course, in real life, you would have a student answer these out loud. And for the purposes of time, Star, we're just going to give them 3 minutes to do this. For our PD, I need one person from each room to give me one answer when we come back. Okay? So.
All breakout rooms should have been created.
I don't know if they're going to see. I don't think they can see my display screen in their great breakout rooms. So they might not know what to do. Mr. Jones, Bennett, Mark, I'm looking at you 3 because you're right underneath of me. On your screens, can you see?
I'm going to write it down.
On your screens, can you see my slide?
I can see your slide now, but I didn't join breakout 10 yet. So I'm going to write your question down.
Okay. Or take a picture of it.
That's too technical for me. And I typed in a question in the comment. I'm not sure if you can answer that. I'll be right back. I'm going to go to the breakout room.
Okay. I'll answer Bennett's question to the whole group when you all come back. We should have about 2 minutes left.
Oh, we got somebody else. Hello.
You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Just wanted to make sure the breakout rooms were established correctly. They asked me to check in on one room, and you guys were the lucky room. All right, I'm checking out. Just checked in on one of the breakout rooms, Todd.
Okay. Are we coming back, I think, or did I mistime it?
I don't know. I put 120 seconds because that's
Okay.
what we had was seconds. So I assume that was
2 minutes. Yeah, yeah.
no. I guess that's not 2 minutes. That should have been. Let's close it. I don't know. When it did seconds, I kind of thought it was going to do minutes. So I kind of froze trying to do it quickly. So 3 minutes would have been 90 seconds. So I'm going to close it and about 1 minute?
You can start closing it now if you want.
Yep. I don't know why it only gives you the seconds feature. It should give you minutes.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Because I like froze. My math froze on me. I was like, oh my God, how many are 3 minutes?
Sarah Fisher, nice
I should
virtual
be ashamed of
background.
myself as the money person. Like, I couldn't, under pressure, figure out how many seconds were in 3 minutes. I'm like, all right, no worries. 56 seconds left.
So about a third of the people are back right now. Here they come.
Cool.
Once it shows that everyone's here, I'll answer a few questions. Oh, somebody just left. How about that?
Todd, I just have a real quick question. So
There's
last year,
always quick questions. There's not always quick answers.
yeah, well, that's fine. I'll make the question quick. I have like 20 different Google classes between health and PE. Is there a way, once I post an assignment and I want to edit something small, is there a way to edit it on all those, or would I need to go in and edit it from each individual class?
So if you saw my head, I don't know if you can see my camera too on your view. I don't know why there's only 20 people now, but I'm just going to act like everybody came back. So Mike just asked a question. I have like 20 different Google Classrooms. If I make a post, and I showed you earlier, and the video will show you that you can, oh wait, here comes everybody. Maybe one of the rooms wasn't ended first. I'll answer it again, hold on. Okay, that seems like everybody's here now. So a couple quick questions before I just go through how this would drive our classroom discussion. Mike just asked, he has like 20 different classrooms. I already showed you, and it's on the video, how you can make a single post into all 20 classrooms, but can you edit all 20 classrooms? No, you have to go in individually to edit each one. So the easiest thing that you can do is go in and just make a new post. Just make a second post and add it to the classes that you want. And then you can either leave the all post there, or just call it a correction, depending on the age of your students, or you can go, and in my case, I'll just be like, hey, it would be helpful if I gave you the link, something like that. Cause I'll like tell them, oh, link here. And then they're like, you didn't give us a link. I'm like, oh, all right. And the students, if they have Google Classroom, not Google Classroom, sorry. If they have the Google Classroom app on their phone, or if they have their school district email associated with their messaging features on their phone, then they'll get notifications whenever you post something automatically. So if you post a correction, then they'll see correction, and then they can go in and see what it is. But you can't edit the group posts. You can't do that. A couple other questions. Bennett mentioned in the chat that last year he assigned lessons to 3 classes, but in the end, all the answers would show up in one document. My guess is, since I didn't do it and didn't see you do it, my guess is that you tried to make it a copy document or a view document, and it accidentally made an edit document. Google has a tendency of changing what you think is going to be a view-only document into an edit document. So the students were putting everything probably into your original doc without you making it. To get around that, you make multiple copies of the doc. So you make one for second period, one for third period, one for fourth period, and then you post individually into each classroom the specific document that you want them to be able to work on. So I'm using the same ones for all 4 of the sessions today, but for that chart one that said Pisces, I would have different ones for each class created so that they wouldn't be able to see the previous class's answers to be able to go from there. We also had a question, if I can find it, hold on. The attendant, oh yeah, we can post the attendance link again. Star, if you can post the attendance link. Hector said, can you please share your presentation? I will say it again that everything that I'm showing you today is either on the Google Classroom or on my website. For this particular slideshow, it is on my website on the wellness unit, and then you go down to the Pisces page and it's there. When you click on it, it'll open up for you in Publisher View, and you can be able to save a copy of it to your own computer if you want to. If you can't figure that out after we're done here, shoot me an email and I'll share you a copy version of it so you can copy it into your drive. Kenyatta, you have a question?
Yeah. Is it true that we going over to Zoom after like a few weeks into the school year?
It's a great question. The school district is giving you the option right now to be able to use Zoom or Meets, and they have purchased a full version of Zoom. The primary reason is because it has the breakout room feature. Google Meets is having breakout rooms as of October, but whatever. So they are purchasing a full license for Zoom as well. I'm not sure what features they're going to have for it, but I highly encourage you, if you have time tomorrow, to register in Cornerstone for one of the Zoom and Meet courses. There's a bunch of them. I even signed up for them, and they're going to explain to you how the school district's going to use the full feature Zoom and Google Meets moving forward. Google Meets is easier to use for the students because the links can go right into Google Classroom. Zoom tends to be easier for teachers. So you'll have to make a decision for your school what would be best, but go to that PD. I think it's roughly 30 minutes. I'm not positive. Okay. So with time, it is 25. So I'm just going to rush through this just so you can see, because some of you did do that. And I would say for each one of the small groups, could one person report out? And I would know as the primary host who was in each group. So I can like write a note for myself who to write one. So I don't know, Hector, I'm picking on you because you're unmuted. So can you just give me one answer of something your group thought about?
Eat healthy, stay physically active all the time.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. And then you would go on with the same discussion like normal, and then you can, again, drive the discussion. Well, here's what the CDC says. It was reported here, and then the link was on there prior. The 5 critical types of behavior contributing to life expectancy, and it says with the 5R. And then you can go on and say, well, what are the 14 things that you mentioned about? Then they can talk about it more. They can go off their lists. You can have them put it into the chat, whatever the case may be. And now you have the answers for them. And yes, again, this slideshow is right on my website, so you can get it for yourself. And then what else? And then you can have more discussion. What kinds of things weren't put in the 14? And you can go on, and it just keeps talking about it like that. Okay. Again, you can embed more videos. I'm rushing because of time. That's okay. And there you go. So as I mentioned before, if you want to get any of these resources, you can just go to my webpage. Even though it has a custom URL, it is just made from Google Sites. So everything that's on it is in my Google Drive, or is a YouTube link, or is, I'll leave that up in case you want to take a picture of it. It's also linked to in my Drive to Classroom, or it's a link to another website or web page. I will tell you that I've never taught health lower than 5th grade. So there were very few elementary school, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th grade topics. There are topics for 5th and up. And I do that on purpose because I find that a lot of my students come from private schools or parochial schools and they never had formal health education before. So I'm talking to them about something and my assumption is that they've had it in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. And they're like, whoa, what are you talking about? I've never even learned that once. Most of the time it's health. So they have an idea what's going on anyway, just with society and in your head. But, sometimes they really have no clue. They're like, what's that? And I'll be like, all right, do I take the whole rest of the class to review what this is? Or I say, all right, just look at it on this page on the website. And then I realize a second person asked me the same question. All right, I'll post a direct link to where that information is. So my website has material primarily from 5th and up, and most of it is geared towards high school. So before you go and think, I'm just going to give the whole website to my students, if you don't teach in high school, you should not do that because there's a lot of stuff on here, such as the way that we talk about gun violence, the way that we talk about dating violence in relationships, the way that we talk about mental and emotional health, specifically suicide awareness and self-harm. It is specifically made for the high school age student, so be careful when you're doing that for them. That said, I don't want to keep you longer. It's 1:25. This is supposed to be over at 1:30. You have my email. It's on the Google Classroom, and somebody, I think Star, put it back on the chat. Email me if you have questions. Refer back to Drive the Classroom anytime you want. Star, just so that you can stop the recording and let everyone know that I will be about 2 more minutes before I come for the next session, okay?
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Stopping the recording now, Todd.